the deepest dungeon of the darkest tower in the world, the master of Torment met a creature he could not open. Sauron broke kings. He broke heroes, cities, entire civilizations. He broke this creature too. Almost. 2 words came out of Gollum in that darkness: Baggins, Shire. But one thing never did. One secret stayed locked behind those huge, wet eyes through everything the Dark Lord did. And by the end of this video, you will know what that secret was, why the most broken creature in Middle-earth could resist what unmade kings, and the disturbing truth underneath it all. Gollum did not keep the secret out of courage. He kept it for a reason far stranger. A reason even Sauron could not use against him. Start in the dark, where this story lives. We told the full horror of the 76 years in the video that built this channel. Today, stand inside a single question: what did Sauron actually want from Gollum? Not pain. Pain was only the tool. The Dark Lord wanted an address. His ring was alive in the world. He knew it, as we saw in the story of Gandalf's fear. And here was a creature soaked in it. 5 centuries of possession, as we saw under the mountains, in the story of what he ate alone. No living thing on any map knew the ring more intimately than this one. So the questioning began. Tolkien drew the curtain on the methods, and this channel keeps that curtain drawn. What matters is the result. Gollum talked. Of course he talked. Everyone talks in Barad-dûr. He gave up the story of the riddles in the dark. He gave up the thief who took his precious. He gave up the name, Baggins. He gave up the word he had heard the thief speak, Shire. And then, somewhere past those 2 words, the well went dry. Where is the Shire? Which road? Which land? How far? Past what rivers? And the creature that had already broken gave the eye nothing it could ride to. Understand how strange that is. Sauron was not merely cruel. He was, as we saw in the story of his prayers, a being of method, a craftsman of wills. His art was precisely this, the opening of minds. And Tolkien tells us the questioning had force behind it that no mortal will was built to survive. Yet the record of what Mordor knew afterward, written plain in the deep texts, shows a hunt that left the Black Gate blind. The 9 rode out with a name and no map. We watched them in the story of how close Sauron came, wandering the wrong riverbanks for weeks, begging directions from a treacherous wizard. Every mile of that confusion was the shape of Gollum's silence. So now the real question, the one this video exists to answer: how? How does a starving wretch of skin and bone hold a door shut against the will of a god? Theory 1 is courage. Discard it. Gollum was many things. Brave was never one. Theory 2 is ignorance. Perhaps he simply did not know where the Shire was. There is a grain of truth here, and honesty matters. Gollum never walked the Shire's lanes. He lost Bilbo's trail long before those green hills. He could not have drawn the Nazgûl a map with an X on Baggins' door, but hear this clearly, he knew the direction. He had followed the thief's scent west for years. He knew the lands, the river lines, the distances, the kind of country halflings loved. He knew enough to shrink the world from an impossible search to a short one. Ask the professionals of cruelty in that tower whether west, past the mountains river country, would have been worth extracting. It would have put black horses in Hobbiton years early. It never came out. So the answer is Theory 3, and Theory 3 is the secret of the secret. Gollum could not give up the Shire's direction because of what that information meant. Not to the world. He cared nothing for the world. To him, follow his logic down in the dark. The precious is out there. The thief Baggins has it, in that soft green country. If I tell him where, his riders go, his hand closes, and the precious goes onto his finger. Forever. And here is the mathematics of obsession. Sauron reclaiming the ring was the one outcome worse than any torment. Pain ends. Sessions end. Even Barad-dûr has hours. But the precious, lost to the enemy, is lost eternally. No hope, no someday, no crawling quest to steal it back. The one candle in 500 years of darkness, snuffed by his own tongue. So every time the questioning reached the crucial point, it collided with the strongest force in that creature's entire being. Not loyalty, not virtue, greed. A love so total it had eaten everything else and left nothing for fear to grab. Do the math with me on what torture actually does. Torture works by trade. It offers to stop in exchange for what you protect. It finds the thing you value less than relief and pries it loose. Baggins traded. Shire the word. Traded. His dignity, his story, his shame. Traded. But the location was not a fact to Gollum. It was the precious itself, one step removed. Asking him to surrender it was asking him to hand over the ring. And 500 years had built exactly one certainty into every fiber of that ruined mind. We do not give up the precious. We bite, we scratch, we drown boys in pools, as we saw in the story of Sméagol's first day. We do not give it up. Sauron, master of leverage, had finally met a prisoner whose breaking point was the thing being asked for. The lock and the treasure were the same object. And there is a second layer, stranger still. The ring itself had trained him for this room. Think about what those 5 centuries were, as we saw. Every night the whisper in the story of what the ring said to him for 400 years. Every day the gnawing possession. The ring dominates its bearer. We translated the word Durbatuluk in the story of the inscription. Gollum's will had spent an age being crushed and reforming and being crushed around a single obsessive center. What emerged was not strength, it was scar tissue. A mind burned down to one load-bearing wall. Sauron's power could demolish everything else, and did. But that wall had been fired in the ring's own furnace. In a terrible irony, the Dark Lord found his own weapon's craftsmanship standing between him and his prize. The ring made Gollum unbreakable on exactly one subject. The ring. But that's not the twist. The twist is that Sauron saw it. Never imagined the eye was fooled. Tolkien shows us a being of vast, patient intellect, as we saw in the story of the false escape. Sauron perceived the shape of the blockage. He understood he held a creature who would die before yielding the true road, and whose death would yield nothing at all. So the craftsman changed tools. If the bloodhound will not describe the trail, release the bloodhound onto it. Let greed do what torment cannot. He opened the cage, as we saw, and Gollum scurried west, hugging his secret, never understanding that his silence had simply been converted into a leash. Every step he took toward his precious was now testimony. The secret he kept in the dungeon, his own legs were spelling out across the map. It is perhaps the coldest move in all these stories. And yet, run the clock, as we did in the story of how close Sauron came. The plan half failed. Gollum, cunning even in obsession, shook his tails. The hunt stalled. The 9 rode late and wrong. And in that purchased delay, a wizard reached a fireplace, a scroll was found under Minas Tirith, and a hobbit slipped out a garden door minutes ahead of the knock. Now weigh the verdict of history. The free peoples were saved in real, countable measure by the greed of their most wretched enemy. Not by his mercy, he had none to give. By the sheer, monstrous purity of his wanting. Gandalf, by his own words at that fireplace, saw pity as the hinge of fate, Bilbo's pity staying the blade as we saw. But fate, it turns out, used 2 hinges. Mercy in the Shire and greed in Barad-dûr. The best in one small creature and the worst in another, holding the same door shut from opposite sides. Perhaps that is the darkest joke Tolkien ever built. The world did not survive because good was strong. It survived because evil, at the crucial hour, loved its treasure more than its master. Sit with that when the theatre goes dark, because this exact dungeon, this exact silence, is the engine of the film arriving in December 2027. The hunt for Gollum only exists as a story because of what did not come out of that cell. Gandalf races, Aragorn hunts, the 9 ride, all of them, as we saw across these stories, scrambling in the space of one withheld answer. When you see Serkis crawl across that screen, watch the eyes. Somewhere behind them, the filmmakers must show you a vault no god could open, with nothing inside it but want. Get that right, and the film understands everything. So tell me in the comments, what was stronger in that dungeon, his fear or his love? One word is enough: fear or love. And if you want to know what Sauron did next, why he opened the cage on purpose, and what he was really planning, that story is on your screen right now. Some secrets are guarded by heroes. The one that saved the world was guarded by hunger. The fire is low. Go carefully.